Welcome to my journey through the Bible. This will be a summary of 2 Samuel 20, verses 1 through 26. And there was a man called Sheba that had blew the trumpet and said, "We will not serve David as our king, and we will not have inheritance of Jesse. Return back to your tents, O Israel." And the men of Israel turned from David and followed after Sheba. But the men of Judah stayed with King David. And as King David had returned back to Jerusalem, he came to his 10 concubines. He had put them inwards and fed them, but he did not go in unto them. He shut them up until their death, and they stayed in widowhood. Now David had called to Amas and said, "We need to gather men and bring them before me." But Amas had waited too long to come before the king. And so David had turned to another and said, "Gather men that we may pursue after Sheba, so that he does not go out of the gate and escape from us." And so Joab had gathered all the mighty men to pursue after Sheba. And they came to a great rock. And then Amasa came out in the garments of Joab with his sword strapped to his side. And as he walked, as Amasa had walked before the men, his sword fell off of his side. And Joab came up to him and said, "Amasa, is your health well?" And Amasa did not realize that Joab had a dagger in his hand, and he thrust it into his fifth rib, and his blood poured out onto the ground, and Joab had let go of Amasa. Now Joab had said, "Let all of us pursue after Sheba." And one of the servants said, "All of you that serve the Lord King David, then let's follow after Joab." And the men began to follow after Joab until they come to the puddle of blood where Amasa was laying in the midst of the road. And the men stood still. And there was one servant that grabbed Amasa, pulled him off of the side of the road, and covered him up with his cloak. Now the rest of the men began to follow Joab to pursue after Sheba. And when they had went through all the tribes of Israel, and they came to a place that they gathered, and then they stayed in the trenches and began to tear down the walls. There was a wise woman that yelled out and said, "I pray that Joab would listen to me and come near to his handmaiden." So Joab had came near. And the wise woman said, "Listen to the words that I say to you." And Joab said, "I will listen." And the woman said, "We have taken counselor unto Abel, and this matter has came to an end. We are peaceful, and we have been faithful in Israel. So why do you pursue after Israel to destroy all that the Lord has given to us as an inheritance? Why would you swallow it up?" And Joab had said, "Far be it from me to swallow up anything of the Lord's, or even to destroy it. We only pursue after Sheba because he has lifted his hand against King David. If you will deliver him to us, then we will leave this city." And the woman had said, "Give us some time, and we will throw over the head of Sheba to you." And the wise woman had went and talked to the people, and they cut off Sheba's head and threw it over the walls to Joab. And then Joab had blew his trumpet, and all the men returned back to their tent, and Joab returned back to Jerusalem. May God be with you in everything and in every way.